welcome to this edition of SportsCenter. I'm Terry Ross along with Chris Fowler. Well, Pete Rose's case has begun. It's sort of like sports version of the Watergate hearings. I mean, all the reporters and the media there, and then there's Pete Rose sitting down in Atlanta.
A little bit like Watergate. Sam Dash is on hand just as he was back in the Watergate hearings. But this was day one in Judge Nadle's court of the battle that Rose's attorneys had asked for, trying to force the courts and not Commissioner Giamatti to rule on his case. But on day one, baseball's investigator John Dowd trotted out a powerful lineup of corroborated evidence against the all-time hit leader, evidence that Dowd says includes phone records, signed checks, and betting slips in Rose's handwriting. Bob Lee summarizes Thursday's testimony.
John Dowd named names and described evidence he says proves Pete Rose bet on the Reds and Major League Baseball.
There are 9 witnesses in one way or another give information about Pete Rose betting on baseball or the Reds.
Commissioner Giamatti's investigator took the hearing through the so-called Pete Rose betting sheets. The New York Times reports the original slips contain Rose's fingerprints. He claims the sheets are forgeries, but Dowd has not received the FBI fingerprint analysis.
Are you interested in obtaining that information?
Yes, I think it would resolve any and all questions one way or another. If we're after the truth, that's what we ought to do.
Fairness and truth are what Rose's attorneys say they have not received from the commissioner.
I submit to Your Honor that we are not here to determine this proceeding at this time whether or not Pete Rose bet on baseball. That is not the issue. The issue is for Your Honor to determine whether he's entitled to a fair hearing before an impartial decision maker.
Former Watergate counsel Sam Dash, retained by Rose's side, assailed the procedures of baseball's probe.
No accused that I know of in this country has ever asked to prove his own innocence. This is contrary to the American concept of justice. I think it's unfair.
Central to Rose's case is this letter, drafted by Dowd, signed by Giamatti, vouching for the candor of witness Ron Peters to the federal judge about to sentence him. Evidence of prejudgment, say Rose attorneys. Dowd defends Giamatti's integrity.
I don't know how many times the commissioner has said from day one, everything you do is going to Mr. Rose. I'm not making up my mind until I hear this whole case. Pete Rose is one of the greatest ball players this game has ever seen. We're going to give him every last ounce of effort. And, Your Honor, as an attorney and as a witness, I represent to you that they've always been my dealings with Commissioner Giamatti.
And testified Dowd, his report gave Rose's side a roadmap of baseball's case, more than attorneys ordinarily could expect.
Do I like it? No. There isn't a day that I haven't felt enormous sadness about this matter. But I have to be honest, and I have to produce for the commissioner my honest recitation and my honest assessment.
Tomorrow, Dowd is cross-examined by Rose's counsel. I'm Bob Lee, ESPN.
While Pete Rose went through his pregame rituals in Atlanta, where the Reds were playing, the entire sports world watched in Cincinnati. The courtroom packed with reporters and baseball officials looked like something on a primetime soap. While Rose put on his Reds uniform for the zillionth time, those in Cincinnati began the process of deciding whether Rose will even have that right in the future. Charlie Steiner was there for one of sports' biggest days in the court.
It was a stifling hot day here in Cincinnati, a day that reminded you of the old movie Inherit the Wind with Frederick March and Spencer Tracy. It was appallingly hot inside the courtroom. The only difference between that movie and today's activity, that old box microphone with WGN wasn't there. Instead, 12 mini-cams were here to televise the events live. It was a day in which, at least for a little while, baseball was on the defensive when Sam Dash, the Watergate special prosecuting attorney, took to the defense for Pete Rose, alleging that baseball's investigation of Pete Rose was unfair. But this afternoon, John Dowd, who conducted the investigation, pretty well defended himself and that investigation. Jim Drucker is joining us now. He's a New York sports attorney. He's been watching the festivities. Tomorrow morning, when the defense Pete Rose's side gets to cross-examine John Dowd, what do you expect that they're going to try and hammer at?
Charlie, I expect tomorrow that they'll hammer at Dowd was not only not fair and unbiased, but it was very subjective, and that he, quote, had it in for Pete Rose, something which, of course, Dowd vehemently disagrees. And today in testimony, although it did come out that there were 9 witnesses that were saying that Pete Rose, in fact, bet on baseball games, Dowd made the point of volunteering that there were also 9 witnesses that they interviewed that said Pete did not bet on those games.
So now, where does Judge Nadell go from here? What are his options as we look ahead?
Well, to postpone Monday's hearing in New York, Judge Nadell must find that holding the hearing itself will do Pete Rose irreparable harm. And I just haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it. One reason, where's the irreparable harm? You can measure it all in dollars. If Pete Rose isn't a manager, pay him his salary. So the timing is wrong. The hearing can come, but it should come in much later.
We'll be back in Cincinnati tomorrow morning. Let's go back now to Sports Center.
And don't forget, we will have live coverage, the updates beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. on Friday with Charlie Steiner.
And again, while Rose's legal team is regrouping back in Cincinnati, his baseball team is trying to regroup in Atlanta. As preoccupied as he has to be by the hearing, Rose continues to manage, and he continues to have no comment on baseball's evidence against him. But others in the baseball world did comment Thursday.
I think he's a great sports hero. He was a great player, and he's a fine manager. I can't comment on the gambling because I don't know. But I do know this. Knowing Bart Giamatti as I do, he will be fair and he'll be compassionate. Now, if Pete's done wrong, I think Pete's the kind of guy, or should be the first guy to stand up and say, hey, I admit it, I was wrong.
It's a very sad situation, not only for Pete Rose, but for all of Major League Baseball and for me in particular. I think one of the problems we have to understand here is that I believe that the commissioner should be the one to decide this case. I think the hearing should go on. I think after the case is decided, then if you want to go to court, okay. But I think only a baseball person can understand the ramifications of what can happen if you do bet on baseball games.
Well, obviously, those of us that know him and have been around him hope for the best. But at least from what we can tell at this particular point, things are not very bright.
They said about Joe Jackson, say it ain't so, Pete, say it ain't so. I mean, it's so evident every time you walk into a locker room, the rules right there on the board. That's not something you can plead ignorance to.
I would give him a long-term suspension. I would see that there was supervised, explicit treatment, but I wouldn't suspend him for life because America is too fouled up.
Hall of Fame.
Sports are warped in this society in their importance, and people actually believe that he is a significant social character when he has shown that he has very little character.
And telling how long this